This is our statistics final project by Macy, Angela, and Elizabeth. Our hypothesis is about 60% of all high schoolers in the MFL MarMac school district plan to attend a four-year college. Our sample size. To determine the minimum sample size, we use the following equation. N equals z squared times p hat times q hat over e squared. For z, we used 1.645. For p and q hat, we used the standard value of 0.5. And for the margin of error, we used 0.05. And this was all within the 95% confidence level. For sampling, to have a simple random sample, we drew 4 advisories from our high school, 1 advisory in each grade to ensure the best results possible. The advisories we chose were Mrs. Killian for the freshmen. They had 11 out of 19 are planning on attending a four-year college. Mrs. Ford for the sophomores, and they had 10 out of 18. Mr. Molesky for the juniors had 13 out of 20, and Mrs. Webker for the seniors had 8 out of 14. And that's a total of 42 out of 71 students. Because our minimum sample size equaled 385 people, and there's not that many in our high school, we cut the sample size down to 45 people as instructed by our teacher, and ended up with 71. Our claim was more than 60% of all MFL MarMac high schoolers plan on attending a four-year college after graduation. The opposite of our claim was that at most 60% of all MFL MarMac high schoolers plan on attending a four-year college after graduation. It's important to recognize and state both the claim and the opposite in order to clearly state the hypothesis and to exhibit both sides of the project. So for hypothesis testing, for our claim we determined the null and the alternate hypothesis. Our null was p is less than or equal to 0.60, which would be 60%. And our alternate would be p is greater than 0.60. Then we drew a graph. And after that we computed our critical value using the following equation. So again, using the 95% confidence level, this is what our graph looked like. We needed to identify and convert the z-scores to compare it later on in the experiment. So the z-score here ended up being 1.645. Now to compute the critical value or the comparable number of the entire population, not just the sample, we use the equation p hat minus p over the square root of p times q over n. To obtain p, the probability from the sample, we looked at our data and found that 42 out of 71 people equaled a 59.2%. To obtain the p, the probability that we wanted to find was in our claim, which equals 60%, so 0.6. All over the square root of p times q over the sample size, which was 71 people. When we computed this, the value equaled negative 1.37598. In order to compare this number, we must place it on the graph.
So we go back up here and find negative 0.13, somewhere in there. Because this landed on this section outside of the shaded area, the null hypothesis saying that P is less than or equal to 0.6 is supported, and the alternate is rejected.
So the results, as a result of the null hypothesis being supported, our claim of more than 60% of the MFL MarMac high school students planning to attend a four-year college is rejected because the obtained evidence states the opposite.